Bonjour et bienvenue sur Greener Side Language Academy. Welcome to another video from Greener Side Language Academy. Today's video is going to be a video on beginner's French, and we're going to be focusing on the following theme. Quelle est la date d'aujourd'hui? Quelle est la date d'aujourd'hui? So really what this is asking in English is, what is today's date? So today we're going to be discussing days, months, and dates in French, and how to use these to ask questions and form sentences. So let's get right into it. So before we go into the actual lesson, here are some words, some vocabulary that you will find useful. So you see that the topic is les jours de la semaine. Les jours de la semaine. Do you have any idea what that means? Let's see. So le jour means the day. So les jours would mean the days. What about la semaine? Well, that means the week. So les jours de la semaine means the days of the week. Let's see the days of the week in French. Et voilà, voici les jours de la semaine en français. Here are the days of the week in French. I'll read them for you. For Monday, we have lundi, lundi. For Tuesday, mardi, mardi. Wednesday, mercredi, mercredi. Thursday, jeudi, jeudi. Friday, vendredi, vendredi. Saturday, samedi, samedi. And lastly, Sunday, dimanche, dimanche. So you'll see that with the exception of dimanche, these days end with the two letters D-I, D-I. So that's something that the majority of them have in common. So maybe that would be something that would help you to remember them. Please go over this part of the video one more time if you need to make sure that you hear the pronunciation clearly, and try to repeat and copy the pronunciation in the video. Now, what about the months? Well, the heading says les mois de l'année, les mois de l'année. As we did before, we're going to learn what these words mean. Special vocabulary relating to the days, the months, enfin, le calendrier, the calendrier. So we're talking really about the calendar, right? The days, months, and dates. So we see les mois de l'année. Le mois means the month, so les mois would mean the months. L'année means the year. So les mois de l'année, that means, what does it mean? You've guessed it, it means the months of the year. All right, so let's actually see the months of the year en français. Et voilà, voici les mois de l'année en français. Here are the months of the year in French. This is the first half. These are the first 6 months. Let's go over the pronunciation. January, janvier, janvier. February, février, février. March, mars, mars. April, avril, avril. May, mai, mai. And June, juin, juin. Now this last one might pose a bit of an issue, but just pronounce the word in two parts. So divide it into two. Ju, you know that the U has a special sound, and IN has another special sound. Un. So juin, juin. That will make it a bit more simple for you to pronounce it. But of course, you can go over this part of the video to practice your pronunciation. Let's look at the last 6 months of the year. From July to December, let's go over the pronunciation. July, juillet, juillet. You'll notice that the LL here is being pronounced as if it were a Y, Y. So, this is a point of pronunciation. Whenever you see two L's after an I, deux L après I, usually the pronunciation will become that of a Y. This is not always the case, but this is usually the case. This is what usually happens. Okay? So it's juillet. What about August? We have août, août. September, septembre, septembre. October, octobre, octobre. November, novembre, novembre. And December, décembre, décembre. Very good. Again, you can pause this video or replay it so you can go over the pronunciation on your own. So what about asking for the date, the entire date? Demandez la date. Let's look at a few possibilities. There are several ways to ask for the date in French, but today we're actually going to look at two of them. Here's the first one, the first way. Quelle est la date d'aujourd'hui? Quelle est la date d'aujourd'hui? Now let's break this down. Quelle means which. Et means is. La date means the date. De means of. And aujourd'hui means today. So if we were to break it down and translate it literally, it would be which is the date of today. But if we were to translate it properly, we could say simply, what's today's date? Okay? Quelle est la date d'aujourd'hui? How do you respond to that question? Let's see. You would respond simply by saying, aujourd'hui, c'est, and then you give the date. Basically, aujourd'hui, c'est means today it is. Let's look at the second way to ask for the date. Quelle date sommes-nous? Quelle date sommes-nous? Now let's break down this question once more. Quelle, as we've seen earlier, means which. Date, as we also saw earlier, means date. Sommes means are. And nous means we. Quelle date sommes-nous? It's almost as if you were saying, which date are we? I know it sounds a bit strange when we translate it literally in English, but really and truly, if we were to translate it properly, it would translate to the same thing. What's the date? Okay? So how do we respond? We're going to keep the same vocabulary, but just invert it. We'll respond by saying, nous sommes, and then give the date. Nous sommes, and then give the date. Nous sommes means we are, but it's almost as if you'd be saying it is the date, that particular date for that day. Now let's look at an example. Well, a couple of examples really. Here's the first example. We're going to use the first form that we discussed. Aujourd'hui, c'est. Now let's pause for a second. Let's look at the way in which the date is given in French. So, premier, numéro un, the first thing we do is to give le jour, the day. So in this example, we have lundi, lundi, Monday. Then we use le. Le means the. Le is usually followed by la date, the date. So that's the number. Of course, the date, given the number, that particular date for, that month. So in this case, we have le 13, the 13th. All right, le 13. Right afterwards, we put le mois, the month. So we have lundi, le 13 novembre, le 13 novembre. Then right afterwards, we have l'année, the year. In this case, it's a bit tricky because you haven't learned how to say 2000s, but guess what? All you'd have to do is to add 2000 before the last two digits. 2000. 2000 means 2000. So to say 2020, we would say 2020. So you know your numbers 1 to 20, as we would have looked at in previous classes. So all you have to remember is that you should put 2000 before those last two digits. In this case, it's 20, so it's 20, 2020. So once more, let's say it together. Aujourd'hui, c'est lundi, le 13 novembre 2020. Today is Monday, the 13th of November 2020. Let's look at a second example using the second form we looked at. Nous sommes jeudi. Le jour est jeudi. The day is Thursday. Le premier, wait, there's something different here. Why am I seeing one, and then er? Well, here's something to take into consideration for the French language. When giving the date, they always use the ordinal number for 1, which is first. So instead of saying, as before, where they said the 13 November, they wouldn't say the 1 August, they would say the 1st August, le 1er août. So whenever it's the first of the month, always remember, instead of saying le 1, you would say le premier. Donc, so, nous sommes jeudi le 1er août. Août, c'est August, right? Can we take a shot at maybe saying this year? It's a bit different, 2016 in English, but it's the same concept. We say 2000 and then we add the last two digits to the 2000. Do you remember what 16 is in French? If you said 16, you're correct. So, it's 2016. 2016. Donc, nous sommes jeudi le 1er août 2016. Today is Thursday, the 1st of August 2016. Very good. Très bien. Let's move on. So now you have some homework to do. Here are some questions I'd like you to answer using the different forms based on the question. So if you see quelle date sommes-nous, you should respond by saying nous sommes. If you say quelle est la date de, if you see quelle est la date de, you should respond by saying c'est, and then we continue with the actual date. Okay? So, quelle date sommes-nous aujourd'hui? We know what aujourd'hui means, so I don't need to explain that. Quelle est la date de ton anniversaire? There's a picture there to help you understand what ton anniversaire means. Quelle est la date de Noël? There's a picture there to help you understand what that means as well. And lastly, quelle est la date du nouvel an? There's also a picture there to help you understand what nouvel an means. So, submit your answers in the comments below, whether here on YouTube or on Google Classroom, to show you understand. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir, à la prochaine.